apparently.
Oh, yeah, right, you can, yeah. Yeah,
It's only a block and a half from our house.
oh, beautiful.
Friday night shrimp night. It's important.
That night's good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Streets and Transportation Committee meeting. This has been a long day of the City of Rehoboth Beach. It is Thursday, February 16th, and I call this meeting to order at 3:04 p.m. I believe the meeting minutes were sent out for December 15th, 2022, and I'm going to hold on that, though, because I forgot to do roll call. So I will do that now. Chris Galanti.
Present.
And thank you, Chris, for being here. This is Chris's first meeting on our committee, so thank you for doing this. Mr. David Diefendorfer.
Here.
David Mann.
Right here.
John Geiger.
There.
Ms. Maybury.
Here.
And Ms. Moore.
Here.
And the chair is present. We have a quorum and can conduct business today. Approval of minutes, like I said, December 15th, 2022 was sent out. Does anyone have any corrections, changes, comments? Then I will entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the December 15th, 2022 meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections? So the meeting minutes are approved. I don't have any correspondence noted that has been received, and I will like to update. Well, actually, I'm going to have Mr. Galanti, if you don't mind. Can you update us on what has happened on the 300 block of Munson?
Yes, my pleasure. So in the last 6 weeks, there have been an installation of a double yellow line on Munson between State Road and Scarborough. And then within the last 2 weeks, digital readers were installed on both the westbound and eastbound sides of the street. The digital reader on the westbound side was installed first and is working and is a very happy fixture for those of us who live on that street. The eastbound, the sign on the south side of the street that picks up eastbound traffic is not yet working. It was installed about a week or so ago. I saw a Rehoboth Beach City work crew there this morning tinkering with it. I don't know what's going on with it, but it was not working as of about an hour ago. And then we are anxiously awaiting installation of the driveway boxes, which as I understand it, will be installed sometime in the March timeframe. Yeah.
Could you repeat that? What kind of a box?
The yellow painted lines that are in front of a lot of the driveways across the city of Rehoboth are going to be installed on the 300 block.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And have you received any feedback from your neighbors and others on that street?
I have. The general consensus is that the double yellow lines aren't really doing very much. We had about 5 or 6 weeks where they were in place before the digital readers were in place, and I think now that we have both, we're seeing some positive outcomes associated with both of the traffic calming mechanisms devices. I think the two of them in concert are working a lot better. The double yellow lines, I think, just were the start. I think it sort of is going to help to structure and guide traffic, particularly in the summer when Munson becomes a pretty significant cut through, and cars that are waiting to leave the city, particularly on like if any day that there's a rainstorm, Munson gets backed up all the way from Scarborough to State Road for hours at a time. And a lot of drivers take it upon themselves to cross into the opposite side of the street and then try to find some mechanism to get through the neighborhood, either by making a left or a right on Country Club Drive, going over to Hickman, going to Sandalwood. So I think the digital readers are really, I witnessed something just the other day. I was walking my dog, coming home from the beach, heading west, and a car came, I could hear it. I was like, this guy's going fast. The digital reader hit 41 and it blinks red. It's unlike some of the others that I've seen. It blinked red and the person slammed on their brake. So like in real time, I saw,
Great.
a positive outcome. So
Good. And I can confirm that in the spring, before the season begins, that those boxes will be painted. At least I should, yeah. The city manager said that, and the public works director just confirmed. Were the signs yet put up, the speed limit signs?
they are not.
Okay, and
We're still
that-
waiting for those.
Right, and they are forthcoming, I know. Well, thank you for that update.
Yeah, just quick question, and I'm not sure if it's who it goes to, but any information on what's happening with the digital reader that is on the south side of the street that captures traffic that goes east? Any idea on why it's not working or what's happening with it?
As you mentioned, the maintenance guy was out there today looking at it, so I'm hoping it's going to start working this afternoon or by the end of this week. He just had a different install. He got that one done, and he had pre-programmed a lot of the information that he needed ahead of time. So we just have to make sure it's charged up properly and it's reading that and it's connected to the satellite to make sure we're getting all the information. So we're hoping very soon.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So Chief, you can just nod. You will be able to provide us updates on what information, the speeds that it's capturing?
Correct. We're able to get information from the system or whatever, so we can get data when it's available. As it's available, we'll have to come up and decide how often we want to give that in what format. Okay. But yes, we will be able to get the information.
Great, that's great to know.
Was
Go
the
ahead, Doug.
implication that the speed readers are continually keeping data, continually counting the cars and the speeds? Yes. That's continually going on, so you,
And the chief has said that is correct.
yeah, okay.
Any other questions on this topic? All right, well, I'm glad, I want to thank all of the city staff and especially Evan Miller, the interim city manager. I mean, we got this done quickly compared to a lot of other things that we often do, so I appreciate the efforts.
Me too, thank you.
Brand, can you put on the screen? Next is discussion and potential vote of professional comprehensive traffic study and recommendations for consideration of the next fiscal year to the Board of Commissioners. We've, I think, went through this pretty thoroughly. Last time, I think there were just a couple minor modifications. And my hope is that we can vote on this today and get it off our plate. It is currently being budgeted for the next fiscal year. But we want to have specifically the items that we've listed here, make sure that they are included in what will be done. So we want to make sure that it is correct and what we expect and intend to happen. I will, although I don't have any specific correspondence, I have been told by several members of the public that they think this is a huge waste of money. So just throwing that out there.
Was there a dollar figure attached to this comprehensive study that would cause them to say that?
You wouldn't have any idea, would you?
No, we know it, so yeah, we have an estimate.
Yeah, I believe it was 150, but what part of that included other stuff, I'm not quite sure. but we'll get an answer on that. I think everyone has this in front of you. We went through it pretty thoroughly last time, so I'm not sure that we need to go line by line again, but if you see anything that's missing or anything that jumps out.
Yeah, I wasn't here last time, so I missed the opportunity to comment on it previously. I feel like there is something missing here. When I look at the overall recommendation statement, to me, it is written as though it is about parking. And to me, the traffic and parking study should be about pedestrian safety. All of the bullets that are under the study would include a comprehensive analysis of items such as, many of them are around pedestrian safety, but if you read that recommendation paragraph and the second sentence in particular, it's really about strategically maximizing existing parking assets. And to me, that's a missed opportunity with not calling out the pedestrian safety aspect of it. Because to me, that's one of the main reasons why we're doing this.
Yeah.
It's about ensuring safety of the people who are walking around this town.
So you would relocate the line item below?
I think what I would do is I
To
would
the
change
paragraph?
that second sentence to say, the City of Rehoboth requires an effective and traffic and parking management plan that helps to ensure pedestrian safety, strategically maximize existing parking assets, and then the rest of the sentence.
And an effective traffic management plan.
Correct.
I think, Chris, if we did that, we'd also have to add biker safety. You know, it's not just pedestrians, it's also bikers who are at risk on the streets, and that we need a good traffic plan.
So
And actually, people in automobiles are affected too, so it could be safety for all those.
When I say pedestrian safety, I mean both people who are on feet and bicyclists. So maybe I'm saying that wrong, but I mean, I think it's basically everybody who's not in a car.
But we even want to think about it for people in cars too. We want to think of safety for them, for everybody on the streets.
So make the sentence say pedestrians and cyclists that Chris is suggesting to move up to the paragraph?
I would be good with that.
So we're talking right here, helps to, correct?
Helps to ensure pedestrian and bicyclist safety.
Bicyclists.
And is that a Word document that Elise has? Is that?
Yeah.
If you, with safety, to strategically maximize.
And comma. Sort of like a list of the things that we're recommending that the study include. Strategically maximizes existing parking assets, so change maximize to maximizes.
So is that something that Chris could write the sentences, send it to Elise, and then she could send it to all of us? And we could vote on it, or are we going to do it in real time?
I'm doing it in real time.
Perfect.
This is a working
Perfect.
meeting. I would like to put this to bed today.
Oh, yeah. It would be great if we could get it out of here today.
Let's get this done today.
You're doing it right now.
Fabulous.
Bring it right now.
Awesome.
Okay, and down below, in the
does that
bullet
read-
heads, it says pedestrian and cyclist safety. So that's itemized.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand, but I'm just recommending that we move it up. Because to me, the traffic study isn't just about parking.
Yeah.
It should be about pedestrian safety and bicyclist safety. To me, that's tantamount, and it maybe even goes to David's question about like how much does this cost and some of the feedback that you're getting, because to me, I'm not sure we can put a price tag on the safety of the residents of Rehoboth.
I think if we can add those and keep the process moving, and we can accept it, vote on it today, and get it to the commissioners, that'd be great.
Would we take it out then below?
Yes, I think we should.
Wouldn't hurt to leave it.
So we would take this entire sentence out?
No, the phrase below that says
bullet point.
The
pedestrians.
bullet point below.
Bullet point below where it says pedestrian and.
I think it's already all covered. I don't think we need to change anything.
Here, let me show you.
Want to just do?
Just there.
Oh, okay, gotcha,
See?
gotcha.
Let's see what needs to be
There you
changed.
go. Okay.
I leave that in.
Chris, any other recommendations?
No, I like the change, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I may not remember correctly, but I think one of my reasons I wanted to wait to vote on this today is because you would be here and a part of the committee with your expertise.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree
I don't
with
think you
that.
need to take that last bullet out. You took that last bullet out. There's nothing wrong with keeping that in there. I mean,
For the
he-
people that we're presenting this to, I think the bullet point is a lot easier for them to read than if it's buried in a paragraph. I don't think it's a bad thing to
it
be
may be
redundant and
overkill,
say it
and that's-
twice.
Does it
Okay
matter
to
if it's overkill?
I'm okay with it being in both places, but I really very strongly feel that it should be in the introduction.
Okay, yeah,
agree.
Yeah, I
which
agree.
which it is now.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
Can you scroll down?
that was a good.
Yeah. And I'm using cyclists. Is that
I think that,
is
Pedestrians and cyclists.
cyclists, not bicyclists, cyclists?
Cyclists.
Some cyclists are on unicycles, right? Right?
We-
Tricycles.
Keith is smiling because we always want to draw a distinction between a biker and a cyclist, just to be safe.
I think cyclists is fine.
Okay.
I think it's more comprehensive.
Any other changes? You wanted me to go down. Donna, you wanted me to go down?
I just, to see how you'd, how you'd filled in that second sentence up there. I didn't see it while you were doing it before. Yeah, okay, yes, I see. I hadn't seen it when you first did it. Thank you.
Now you've gone to 2 pages, Edward.
I know. But I wanted you to see the entire desired outcome. Any other comments?
It's a little thing.
Yeah.
Because when I expanded the margins to get everything in, the last two things, in the third, underneath the bullet points, in the next paragraph down, the Rehoboth Beach Fire Department has stated its concern to there should be a return before S&T. Oh, you did it. It's on, I guess it just happened automatically. So we're okay?
Oh, I did that. Yeah, I saw
Thank
that
you.
and did it.
That
already.
annoyed me. Thank you. Okay.
Any comments from the chief or public works director?
What did you change on the recommendations?
Plug the sentence in up there.
So the change was right here. Where is it? Oh, it was the second sentence, right?
Helps
We
too.
just said, we added, helps to ensure pedestrian and cyclist safety as one of the aspects of the recommendation.
Say strategically maximizing existing parking assets now? Wait a minute.
Maximize. Is that correct?
Grammatically.
What?
I think that's fine. Grammatically, isn't it?
It's parallel structure, right?
I like numbers.
Recommend the city of Rehoboth to the city.
Strategic.
Maximizes. I don't know, it doesn't sound right.
Maximize, it's not, it shouldn't be plural.
Yeah, no,
To
maximize
strategically
existing
maximize
parking assets. Yeah, I think it's,
Existing parking assets.
I think it's
with-
fine.
I vote for maximize.
Okay.
Helps
I
to
go
ins-
with you.
Yeah. There's a 2, so it's just a,
Okay.
We good? Okay.
It's looking really good.
Do we want to hear more about the budget before we vote on this?
I have one question. I don't want to gum up the works. If we've missed something, do we need a catch-all in there and something to the effect that and anything else that this group figures would find out? I don't want to open it up so they spend a lot more money, but do we need just one?
Look at the third from the last spot. It says, other recommended safety devices, innovative options.
Yeah, that's safety devices. I mean, I'm okay with this. I just wanted to just bring it up as, do we need to add a catch-all?
I think that one little bullet point is good. And we really don't want to do anything to make it more expensive because it's going to be a battle to get 150,
Right. Okay, I'm good with that.
if that's the number.
I just would like to reiterate, I think to really be comprehensive and fair, we need to be thinking about motorists also. We need to think about the safety for everybody, especially like motorists at the circle. So,
Oh, boy.
you know, I mean, and so we're not just for pedestrians and cyclists and parking. And so
Does the word traffic cover motorists, motorized vehicles?
for the safety.
To me, that's kind of a catch-all for 2 wheels, 4 wheels, trucks, et cetera, traffic.
Examine safety issues at traffic circle to include speed limits, increased signage, crosswalks, visibility. I think we're covered there, Donna.
Yeah,
Okay, it's
Yeah, I think this last bullet here under examine safety issues really goes right at the heart to your concerns, especially at the traffic circle. All right. Kevin, did we get an update? Not yet. Okay.
May I comment on that just for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Twice in the past week, I've almost been hit at the circle. People are not paying any attention to well, what's the sign say? Merge, oh.
yield.
yield. It
They're
says
not paying
yield.
attention, they're just coming to their full bore.
That's-
I don't know what we can do about it, because we have enough signs and lights.
Well, that's why we want to vote for a study.
Okay.
All right. With that, if you guys want, we can go on. If you guys want to wait and hear about the budget, or we can just vote on this and go forward.
We can't control the budget.
Yeah.
So I think this document is speaking for all of us
Right.
at this point. And then we hope that it gets consideration.
Right.
And I don't know what is included in that amount. I could be off base, just my recollection was it was 150, but I don't know what else was included in that. I know there were other parking, very specific parking things that were being addressed as well.
Well, I feel comfortable with what we've talked about to go ahead and vote on this. And-
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, also including the traffic safety issues with the parking makes the study that much more worthwhile and cost-effective, that they're looking at 2 major issues. So, you know, traffic safety may convince people the importance of it, and it's worth up to maybe $150,000.
Well, then we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the recommendation that is before you related to a traffic study and pedestrian safety study to the mayor and commissioners to be considered for the next fiscal budget. We've got a motion and a second. Any other comments? I'll do a group vote unless it's not unanimous. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those against, nay. All right, and the motion carries. And thank you, everyone. Especially thank you, Elise and David, for your hard work on this. Why is that happening?
Elise wrote and I edited. And changed the margins.
Everybody tweet.
It's
We're a team.
Group effort.
So you have the final now.
I have the final. It is,
Okay.
bam, saved. Okay, next on our agenda is, I'm going to leave it up to Elise and Donna. You guys wanted to talk about, Elise, I think you wanted to still continue to discuss the hands-free equipment and other distractions. No? Did we put that to bed?
I don't think that was.
Yeah, I was surprised to see it on the agenda, quite frankly. So I think we were going to have someone look to see if the state laws already that apply to requiring hands-free operation of cars also applies to bikes.
Right, when we talked about it in December, the chief was unable to be here, and we
Yeah, and I
said
thought-
we'd like to hear from
Donna,
him.
I thought you were going to have Frank come as well. Frank Cole.
No, I didn't. I did not have that
I'm
impression
sorry.
last time.
So we can, I'll just skip over this?
Well,
Save it for next time.
I don't want to keep it on the agenda if no one wants to talk about it.
It's up to state law, correct? Isn't hands-free usage a state jurisdiction? Cell phones, we know cell phones in cars and motor vehicles, but I don't know about if the law covers bicycles.
If the question is, if it's a state law, does it affect us here in town? It can. We would just have to charge state, not charge a city code for all of
Right.
its courts. So we'd have to take it to a state court. And
do you know if the state law that requires drivers to operate their phones hands-free, if that also applies to bicyclists? That bicyclists should not operate their phones with their hands?
I would want to confirm this, but I believe the answer is no. But there's another thing on the books. There's another section on the books, Title 21, and our city ordinance that makes that prohibited.
As you think it's on the city ordinance
That
already?
it falls under a different section or whatever, dangerous activities, some along those lines when we have a bicycle things, because it says can't be riding with your hands occupied. It's supposed to be on a, you can't be trick riding. It falls under different things if you don't have your hands on your handlebars.
Well, if something already exists, then we should, that's there.
Well, I don't know if the chair wants to keep this on, but I can do some research and get you exact.
Because
What
I
does
guess,
and does not.
since we've gone this far, it would be good if we could confirm that. If that's the case, then we could add this information to our bicyclist safety
I'd feel more
brochure.
comfortable with let me look at the law
Okay,
and
yeah.
see what the city has to compare.
Yeah, okay. And I think that's where we left it last time, that we could pursue that, and then if that exists, then we could just recommend that information be included on the brochures we've been
new
developing
map.
for bicyclists.
The new map.
Yeah, just added that so that make them aware.
And Donna, I think you said last time that Mr. Cole is already installing those on his rental
Yeah,
bikes.
right. That's what he indicated to me, that he already has brackets. He has them for sale. They're only like $10 or 2 for $15 that you can put on. And he's quite comfortable doing that. He said maybe they get taken sometimes, but yeah, he was routinely going to put those on, and he has them for sale. And he would not be opposed to it, would not be opposed to the city having this kind of a safety feature.
Great. So then I'll wait to hear back from the chief and sort of determine what to do next with this. As you might remember, the Public Works Director asked us to see if we could obtain some anecdotal feedback on the success of the sharrows. I know I've received a couple comments from people thanking us for putting them out, and that they've been useful from their perspective and successful. So I think each of you were going to do the same. Any additional comments that we can give to Public Works on how they're doing? Because there's a cost to maintaining them. So I think it's important that we evaluate whether they're successful or not.
To me, they're part of the goal to let it be safe to be on certain streets. But I've noticed more and more as I've been driving around, share the road signs. Bicycles may use entire lane signs. So I think for most people, they don't know what those sharrows mean. There's nothing to further that education in the way of signage. That's what I've seen. And like John was talking about Fairfax County, Virginia earlier, Montgomery County, Maryland has taken 3-lane roads and made them 2-lane roads with a buffer between the right-hand outside lane and the sidewalk for cyclists. So there's more bicycle safety going on. And sadly, in many cases, it's because someone got hurt or worse. So to me, it's signage plus the sharrows then gives everybody the total picture of what it's all about.
I interviewed, Ed, I had sent you the information. I interviewed about 10 people, like I said I would do. And for the most part, people, several people didn't even know they existed. Most people knew it was for bicycles. It meant something for bicycles. It was a variety of answers, whether it was the direction of travel of the bicycles or there would be bicycles there. So the majority of people just saw them and knew they were for bicycles.
Yeah, I did talk to my son, who has done a lot of bicycle advocating and rides his bike into Washington every day and all that in Fairfax County. And he told me that while he thinks they're effective, a lot of people were against them. And the reason they were against them was because they thought it was the last thing. You know, do things like Dave just mentioned with the a separate lane or other safety things rather than sharrows. And that's why they were against them, because they thought that was the least you could get, and they wanted more than that. However, he did say, and he does ride his bicycle all the time, that he thinks they are effective.
The more people see them in other parts of the world, particularly people that come here as visitors, there's going to be more understanding, but it will take some time. They haven't even been up 1 year yet, so we're still in the infancy of sharrows on the major streets.
I've not heard any comments about them, but I know when I'm going about town, I find it very helpful to have the sharrows there. I think it lets people know, yeah, look out for bicyclists. There are going to be bicyclists on this street, and so I think they're helpful.
I would agree from that other perspective. The people I talked to were not bikers. I only talked to like 4 people about it, but they weren't sure what it meant. If they didn't know what the word meant, when I explained what the word meant, then they knew. But they say it helps them stop before they go to look for bicyclists.
Kevin, a simple nod is, do you need more information?
It wasn't very helpful?
No, right.
It's not enough feedback?
Very varied feedback, which is probably what we should have expected to get. So, is it worth $25,000 a year to put those shares?
Absolutely.
Yes.
You have to do that every year? You have to repaint them every year?
Well, we've had them out for 1. We'll make a call on whether they're still in good enough shape to use again, the next year. But that's the real root of the question, because it's something we're going to have to maintain.
Yeah.
How many do we get for 25,000?
I think we put over 200 out, if I remember correctly.
Sounds about right. So the answer to that was, the question was how many are there, and the answer was over 200.
I hope you might be able to get 2 to 3 years out of them. Seems like a lot of things, when they're painted on the street, they last about that amount of time. I could get it down to maybe 8,000 a year.
I personally appreciate them being there, and I think anything that we have on the road that creates visual stimulation, that facilitates traffic calming is worth the cost.
Traffic calming is a good thing because we know speeds have gone up. So I agree with Chris. Anything we can do to calm people down is a good thing.
Can start handing Xanax out at the bridge.
Well, the toll booth there would create more revenue.
Requirement to come into the city.
I only kid. Great. One of my favorite signs coming into town is relax, you're at the beach. Slow down.
Correct.
Okay, we'll put that to bed then. Thank you all for getting some talking to folks and getting some feedback. And last item on the agenda was to continue to discuss what to do about King Charles. We heard concerns. I guess there were two separate concerns from individuals on that road about visibility with diagonal and diagonal parking, speeds. We also heard about the lack of crosswalks. We all know that, you know, there's a reason that there's not a crosswalk. We've talked in the past about there being a median, which would then we'd be able to have more crosswalks. We've talked about making it diagonal parking all the way down. So do we want to, and I think we all thought that through that traffic study and parking study may come recommendations from experts. Is that just where we want to stick for now? Do we want to continue discussing this?
I think silent policeman on King Charles is the one thing we could probably get accommodated on without having the median and all the other things. Angled parking is revenue generation, but there's a lot of pushback from the people on that half of the street. So how far do you want to take that?
Well, we had a man from Hickman here last time, and I went and looked at that, and I think the least we can do is ask for a sleeping policeman, or a silent policeman,
Yeah.
excuse me.
You better not catch
It
them
really
sleeping.
does. It really gets, a lot of people do cross there. They really do, because I cross there, so I know that.
My experience with silent policemen at Canal and State Road is they work. And people even stop when you're standing there, and there's no zebra stripe. So I think they work, and I think King Charles, you've got a lot more people going across that street with longer distances than anywhere else in the city. That's the place we should use more of them.
We could also talk about, one of the things that when I wrote up in this document, that we could eliminate one of the spots, one of the diagonal spots right at Hickman too, just to give you a little more room to see. That's something else that we could do. Those are not metered spots on the Hickman side. So it's just another thing to have more visibility as somebody crosses the road.
I could support 3 measures there that we could go ahead and do without the traffic study. It would be the silent policeman, and we could even put in a speed reader. And I think they're very effective. And I think we could, encourage eliminating 2, maybe 4 parking spaces there, right at that Hickman and King Charles, because you can't see around them. You have to go, so far out in the street before you can see the traffic coming. You wouldn't have to take 4 out. You might be able to get by with taking 2 in strategic areas.
I
The
think
silent policeman might help slow people down too.
Yes.
And I've been places, again, paying more attention, where they have double silent policemen to effectively narrow that one lane down. So there's a silent policeman in the center, and then one to the side of the street, just off where the parking is, to make people effectively thread the needle to get through there visually.
You know, I went and looked after the last meeting, and there's something about it, you're going fast, you don't even realize it. Maybe it's the width of that street, yes, of King Charles. Maybe
Yes.
it's the width of it. I don't, I think a lot of it isn't people being, hot rodders, it's just people being unaware of the speed limit. And I think a silent policeman would be really effective there.
And I think even if we added silent policemen at a third junction, like it's at Newcastle now, and then if we
There's
add
one at Newcastle
Hickman,
right now.
and even if we add another one on King Charles, you have all those, so you have all
Further
those.
down from the
Yeah, so,
diagonal parking is what we're
yeah,
saying, right?
because as they hit that area, they're not going to think, oh, I've got a straight stretch here. Oh, no, I've got pedestrians crossing the whole way down. So I think that's effective in slowing people down.
I agree with all three of those traffic calming mechanisms. I think they will help. The one thing that I would add is that in addition to the silent policeman, is there any, would we be able to do street painting to have lines to indicate that it's a pedestrian crosswalk? There's not street painting right now. There's just the silent policeman. And I think if, at a lot of intersections, it's coupled with painting, like white lines to indicate that this is like a corridor where a pedestrian walks through. I think that would also help to slow the traffic on that street.
I think it-
But not an actual crosswalk?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the distinction is. I mean, in my mind, it would be either like solid white lines from one side of King Charles to the other, or lines that are perpendicular to the street that are in blocks that are like a foot wide and then a space, a foot wide and a space. So you would either have, can I borrow your pen? Sure.
So what we ran into when we discussed this in the past was the zebra stripes and being federally compliant with ADA. And that was what prevented us from having zebra stripes on the wide section of King Charles. Because you have X number of feet, and Kevin can speak to the distance, but you would have to have a landing pad in the middle of the street to be able to put zebra stripes across the wide section of King Charles. Did I remember that correctly?
But I think, if I remember right, when I go there at Hickman and King Charles, there are two crosswalks already there that are painted in white stripes. There are two on either, by the church, on north and south of Hickman as it crosses King Charles. I think two exist, and that's helpful.
Right, so I would just offer that you are correct. There are some certain additional requirements come in if you make it truly a crosswalk. If you do the piano keys, which is what the normal paint striping configuration is. And you'll recall what we ended up doing on State was to avoid that conflict, which just causes a whole lot more issues to try to make it into a crosswalk, is we just put the silent policeman out without saying yield to pedestrians in crosswalk. It just says yield to pedestrians, and you don't reference a crosswalk. And it may serve the same purpose on King Charles that it did. I think it did serve a purpose on State Road to do just that. So that would be the easiest thing to implement, fairly quickly.
Is
and try.
Newcastle the only street where we have a silent policeman? Is that the only one?
Well, there's several on King Charles, right? There's one up Brooklyn, is it?
Laurel or Brooklyn,
There's
just
one.
one.
There's
there
one
now.
at the church. There's one at Brooklyn. I think there's one at Newcastle now. So
Correct.
Now, Hickman's the most crucial because you have that bend in the street. People don't see until they come around the bend.
you have the one right at the church,
We do have one right at the church?
right?
Oh, good.
Starting at the church, before.
There's one at
Hickman.
Brooklyn before if you're going south, there's one at Brooklyn, I think.
Oh, good.
And then there's one at Laurel, I guess, which is at the church, and then there's one at Newcastle. I think there's just one at.
Correct. No,
down
there's
at
two.
church, two at
There's
church.
two at
There's one on
Newcastle.
each side of.
Correct.
Okay. And then there's a single one in front of the church and a single in front of, I think it's Brooklyn.
And the ones on Newcastle work great.
All right, so if you just said, hey, I want to do one 3 blocks down from there, or pick a street, and we'll.
Yeah, that was going to be my point.
Can
What
certainly
about
do.
putting one
I
on Rodney or Norfolk or St.
Personally, I don't know if I
Lawrence.
want to, you want to litter the street with,
Yeah.
2 silent policemen at every intersection.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's not,
I
yeah.
could see 2 at Hickman, like they were on State Street, because I think the ones on State Street have been very effective with having 2.
But you have a crosswalk at Hickman, so you put the one in the crosswalk, right? In front of the church, if that's where you're talking. Right.
Well, I'll leave it up to the experts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought that's why we included the silent policeman in the study, so they can say, yes, every other street you should have one, or leave it up to the experts.
Well, the expert's standing right there. How do you feel about every other street, Kevin?
I don't think they're needed on every street, but I mean,
Every other street
I
is
just look
good?
at the number of incidents we get, right?
Right.
They're minor. I mean, very, 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 very few that I've heard the chief tell at any meeting, right? So we can try to make it as safe as possible, or we can make it as safe as reasonable.
So
I mean,
every
'cause
other
you could-
street would be reasonable?
You guys can tell me what's reasonable.
Definitely.
Well, if you put them at Hickman, you'd have them in 4 streets in a row. I mean, because you have it Brooklyn, you have one at Laurel. If you put Hickman, then you have Newcastle. That may be overkill.
So maybe we start with every other and then see how it works, and see if it calms things down.
Well, we definitely need one at Hickman. And I don't know if that's every other. So, I mean, I think we definitely add one at Hickman and see what that does and if that gets us what we need.
What about removing one of the spots that's right there where the cars are parking, the diagonal spot right at Hickman? You can't see because of that spot. We removed them at Newcastle. We don't want to remove too many, but it's not a revenue generating one.
Are you saying you did remove some parking spots at Newcastle?
There's a crosswalk there, so there's a certain distance that you have to have
Along the
a
curb.
spot.
From a crosswalk.
Right, correct. So, yeah, the couple of the horizontal spots were taken out.
Well, if they did it at Newcastle, hey, I want it can happen at Hickman because that's where
You're saying there, I'm sorry, you're saying there's just one spot there that is obstructing the view?
It's pretty close to the corner. That was one of the recommendations in that document I put. That's a possibility to remove one of those spots. So you could see a little bit as you cross the road. Does everybody need to take a look at King Charles again, and then we revisit this, or?
Was there a member of the public who came and testified on this at the last meeting?
Yeah.
Did they have specific outcomes that they were looking for, like when we came and talked about Munson?
We had, I guess there were,
Here we go.
Yeah, so I think right, so here is King Charles and First, obviously the 2 churches here.
So you're heading south there.
Now, I'm looking north, however, and there's one here now.
Correct.
Going north, every intersection has one because the streets are narrow.
Has a crosswalk. They don't all have
Right.
silent policemen.
Right, they have crosswalks.
Correct.
They got piano keys.
There's the one in front of the Catholic church, so that would be, I think, Laurel, right, that runs across there. And it's
Correct.
in the crosswalk because there's a designated crosswalk and it says yield to pedestrians in crosswalks. I don't think, is that Newcastle?
No, that's Hickman you
That's
just
Hickman,
passed.
yep.
And then the next one would be at Newcastle.
It's so hard to tell this time of year because we don't have the heavy traffic
trying
we
to
do in the
shoot.
summer.
Yeah, so that's Stokely, so I went too far. Yeah. So, yeah, if you wanted to go, pick one, if you look there, so we got one silent policeman in the middle of all that jumble in front of the church, a designated crosswalk at Hickman, silent policeman at Newcastle. So if you want to do Norfolk or Rodney and see if,
It's not too busy at the end of the street, quite frankly.
so you just want to go to the next one, Stokely?
It's as soon as you
Stockley.
get past the church where it's that gap. So is that 3 blocks in between the?
Well, Laurel to Hickman would be 1 block. you know, because Hickman's right after Laurel, and we definitely need one right there at Hickman where there's still that diagonal parking.
Is there one already in place at Hickman or not? I'm not
No.
sure.
There's not a silent
Then I
policeman.
think we should absolutely recommend to have one installed at Hickman. It's on the other side of the church. I mean, just think about the pedestrian activity that's there on a Sunday.
Very heavy in the summer.
You have one at the church, right? And you're
That's
saying,
at Laurel, but on the
and you're
other,
saying here,
right
Right here's
there,
where
At
everything-
Hickman.
I think we need one there.
It would-
So that would be 4 in a row.
It would be 4 in a row.
Then skip one,
And then,
and then do one more set.
So we would skip Rodney, right?
Rodney's at the end.
No, the next
Rodney's
one's,
2 down.
next one's Stokely.
So skip Stokely. And then where are we? Hickman?
No,
No,
No, going the other
Norfolk.
way.
Norfolk.
Norfolk. So you put a set at Norfolk? And then it does quiet down as you get closer to Lake.
And if you put one down at Norfolk, as people would come down the hill, they would still see this silent policeman that people are crossing. So it might tend to slow them down because they do speed up when they come down the hill.
They do.
Can you put just one, Kevin, or did we have to do the 2 like we did at Newcastle? Can you put just one in the middle of the road,
We can.
like you did at the church? I don't know.
Yeah,
What-
I would
what-
probably do the 2 like we did at Newcastle.
Okay.
There's not a identifiable crosswalk there. It's just kind of yielding the intersection to pedestrians.
We had one at Canal and State Road for a while, and it was
Kept getting run over and then we
far
didn't
more
put it far
effective
apart.
with 2.
Yeah.
Far
Well,
more
and then
effective.
all the turns, you know,
Yes,
have a
and
tendency
then,
to
and
take
then
them
they
out.
got moved, the spread got further, so we had a better turning radius coming on and off Canal and Hickman. I think you got to do 2.
Yeah.
We've already learned that one's not enough.
Sounds like a great recommendation to me. So if that's the way you go.
how about the idea of a speed reader in that area? What do you think about that?
Chief?
Outside of my lane, so yeah, I'll give you a personal opinion, but you don't want to hear that one.
Speed readers are how much?
And how much are speed readers?
A little
Roughly 6,000.
So they've come down dramatically over the years.
I'd say so, yeah. Goes up a little bit if we need a pole and different things, if we can do a pre-existing on DP&L won't let you use any of their poles for it, so usually we have to get a pole, but yeah, around 6,000 to cover it.
That's a good investment, really. They seem so effective. And
So it would be a 2-pronged suggestion. We specify the streets where we want double silent policemen, and then secondarily request digital speed readers in a couple of places, one in each direction. Yes, no, maybe? Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about 12, not 6.
if we were to do a speed reader on King Charles, where would you recommend placing it?
I don't know that it's fair to ask the chief off the.
I'd have to go and look at the areas. You have to, as we just identified, you have the church traffic. So if you're slowing up around there because you want to get the speeds up to get accurate where you're at, so different times of year, day. So we have to sit down and look at it, see what's going to be worthwhile.
The other question is, who makes a decision about eliminating parking spaces? If we were to recommend that, would that go to the commissioners, or is there a process?
Yeah, that's going to have to go to the commissioners.
And that's revenue reduction.
They've been doing
That
very well with revenue, Dave, if you've noticed.
That may not continue.
Only if it's a metered
Yes.
spot is it revenue reduction, right?
But there's no guarantees in life that that'll continue, so
We've got a lot of
there's always that
expenses coming up.
trade-off. I think my feeling is we should definitely recommend silent policemen and specify which 2 or 3 intersections, and then we can at least get moving forward with that.
I agree.
So
Then-
hold off on the,
Speed readers, we can get a little more guidance from the professionals, whether that's, we can talk about that at the next meeting, maybe.
Okay.
all right, so what I'm hearing now is existing. We have one at silent policeman at Brooklyn, Laurel. We would be adding two at Hickman. There's one at Newcastle. We would add 2 at Norfolk. And then that would, what I heard was we wouldn't need one past that. The next street is St. Lawrence. After we skip Rodney, if the logic is we would skip and then put one, the next street would be St. Lawrence. Do we need one there?
They do start to slow down as you come up the Lake Drive, because otherwise you'll end up in the lake.
Yeah.
So it sounds like 2 intersections need 2, and 1 intersection needs 1.
What intersection needs one?
Does Newcastle only have 1?
Newcastle has 2.
That has 2. So there's 2, so there are 2 more streets that need 2,
Hickman and Norfolk.
Hickman and Norfolk.
And I think Hickman may only need 1, because they have a designated crosswalk, so we could put it right in the crosswalk like
Okay.
we've done at other places. And then where we don't have a crosswalk, I would put the 2, 1 on each side of the intersection. Would be my recommendation.
So we're asking for 3 of those. So we're spending about $1,000, give or take. That seems like a fair recommendation. It's very reasonable.
Great. If we could just,
Can we have a motion to add
Yeah, can
3
we-
silent policemen on King Charles?
I second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to add 1 silent policeman at Hickman on St. Charles and 2 silent policemen at Norfolk on King Charles. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Excellent, thank you, everyone. So I think we can, we'll wait until these are installed and then maybe do a review a couple months later.
Good idea.
Excellent. That brings us to the end of the agenda. Any new agenda topics that, David, I think you had one and I completely forgot.
Me?
Yeah.
We talked about the sidewalks last month a little bit. So the Rehoboth Beach Homeowners Association talked about the poor condition of some of the sidewalks. A citizen came up and talked about the sidewalk issues. So is it worth looking into some of the worst sidewalks that we have, or everybody looking to see what could be repaired? Because there's a lot of them that are in bad shape, quite honestly.
I guess in front of residences, or I guess I'm drawing a blank on what
Well,
these relations.
it was more sidewalks throughout the city had issues. Some people had brought that up, that there was, some of them were in poor shape. And I
The
agree.
trees are growing, the roots are growing, sidewalks are getting disturbed. And I remember talking about the article in the Cape Gazette that Chris Flood had written a little bit of an editorial about it. And I went back to find it, and it's gone. The comments that people made about the article are still there, but the article's not online in the Cape Gazette. So I guess it was considered controversial and removed. But
Interesting. So I guess, well, it's not on the agenda, so we won't talk about it.
Can we
I-
put
Put
it on
it
the
on the
agenda?
agenda.
let's put it on for next time.
Yep.
Okay.
And I have 2 new issues I'd like to throw out there. One is I've noticed that with the dumpsters that are all parked along the street, we have so many dumpsters, many of them don't have any reflector lights or any kind of cones. It's dangerous at night. Like you come up to them and suddenly, oh, there's this, you don't realize it, but you're right there at a bad obstacle. So I don't know if we have it, so to bring that up for next time to discuss that.
And, you know, there's one that's, I think's in the street, if you check, the alley behind the library. We only have one alley, I think. Yeah, that one's, I was in that yesterday, we came up past that, and it seems to me it's in the street, which they're not supposed to be.
Well, I drove around South Rehoboth, and a lot of the dumpsters had no reflection whatsoever. The dumpsters don't seem to have them on them at all.
Gotcha.
And sometimes they put cones that may or may not have reflective lights.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I mean, that's one comment we put on them whenever they get a dumpster permit is make sure they either have cones or reflective tape on the dumpster. So if you know of a couple, holler.
Oh,
and
they're all,
we'll,
you can just go along South Rehoboth and you'll see.
well, thank you. If you know of a couple specific ones, we can get building licensing to go out and hit them about, not having them properly reflected. Because I know that's a comment that we make on it virtually every time we get a dumpster permit to review. So
Okay,
they
so-
know they're supposed to have them, so we can make sure
So
they
you
do
would
that.
want the,
Just give me the address of where you see it, and we'll try to get it taken care of.
You can just take a shot and email it to Kevin.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
perfect. That would be perfect.
There you go.
We'll get it
it
in the
may
right.
take me quite a while, Kevin. I think there's at
As
least
you
a
come
half
across
dozen.
one, and whenever it is, right?
I'm
You see one,
retired. I can do
take a
it.
picture, send it in, and we'll get somebody out there to look at it. Because
Okay,
it's a
okay.
requirement. They're supposed to have
So it's
reflective on
already
them.
there? Okay.
Should be, right.
Good.
So we can just, it's an enforcement, so we'll get somebody out there to take a look.
Yeah, great,
yeah.
great. And the other issue I wanted to bring up is it dawned on me that, the idea about loading zones for delivery trucks, and that maybe rather than postponing that entirely till this professional study's done, I'm wondering if we might encourage the commissioners just to try testing out adding some additional loading zones in town for delivery trucks. Not that it'd be the final answer, but maybe to test it. Maybe such as at there at the corner of First Street and Rehoboth Avenue, where there's frequently a big truck parked there right at the intersection. Wonder if the city would designate, take out some parking spaces and create a delivery truck unloading zone right there. And just see how well that may work in the coming year. Maybe test out some things like that.
Maybe I'll just put some feelers out there and see
But are we-
what the reaction may be.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Shrubbery in the median of Rehoboth Avenue blocking the strobe lights, which I just experienced on the way here this afternoon for the first time.
Anything else? All right. Kevin's got one more thing.
If you're ready to adjourn, I just want to throw something out there if I could. And Brant, if I could get the upper again. I just want to bring you up to date on the resurfacing of Rehoboth Avenue because we met with DelDOT this week.
Oh, excellent.
So,
I just want to, this is not on the agenda, so we are only listening to an update
correct,
from
not
Kevin.
asking for any,
We're not
just
going
bringing
to
you
have
up to date.
feedback. Yep.
And there may be an agenda item you might need to take on here in the near future. So we met with DelDOT. They are still planning on resurfacing their section of Rehoboth Avenue, which, as you know, runs from the drawbridge down to 2nd Street. The city has decided that we want to make sure that it's all of Rehoboth Avenue, so we're going to do our part on the first 2 blocks. So there's some engineering costs. We're putting in the budget for this year to do that, but the intent is for them to do the construction starting soon after Labor Day this year. And then in order to be able to be finished before the next season next year. May require some night work, all these little details we have not yet worked all the way through. So more to follow. They're coming, I think, a week after next. We're going to walk it to identify the limits, and they got to restripe and ADA parking and crosswalks and all that. So a lot of discussion coming up. But because we had an issue, I think you guys had discussed at one point in time, the crosswalks on Rehoboth Avenue that are so hard to see after several years of tires and everything else. So
And the missing ones between Starbucks and Dogfish to get across that median at 4th Street.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the case, but there's not one there. Now,
There's
whether it's
not.
missing is a different discussion. So the question may be, do we stay with the decorative look with the brick pavers, and those concrete strips, or do we pave it all and just put asphalt and the piano keys back? So that'll be a discussion, because I know that you guys have discussed, this committee has discussed before, the fact that those are very difficult to see. And there was some concern about whether or not they're safe. So
We
just-
also talked about when the avenue is repaved, to put up lights in the street that would work in conjunction with the strobes. I remember that from several years ago.
All right, I will put this on our agenda for the next meeting.
Perfect.
And by then, we may have some more information.
Exactly. And we will probably have walked it with DelDOT to know what they're planning to do with their section, and we will, in all likelihood, try to match what they're doing. So we have that one continuous look from the drawbridge all the way to the boardwalk.
There's one
Kevin,
other
thank
old
you.
item that it just came to me, again, that we never tackled. It's the one about the delay in the traffic lights so that people can safely cross the street. And so the cars don't back up on Rehoboth Avenue. We've had several comments on that, and we should take that up and see. I thought we left it that somebody from DelDOT would come and tell us, since it's a state street.
Yeah, I will circle back on that.
Okay.
I think Walter has brought that up once
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah.
twice.
Well, I'm more than Walter.
So it's that the crosswalk light would start a couple seconds before the traffic light, so that pedestrians are already in the crosswalk. Gotcha. All right, I will take a look at that too. Any other
Okay.
agenda items? Any other comments before we adjourn? All right. We thank,
What is the day of the next meeting? Is it the
it-
16th of March?
it will always be the third Thursday
Okay.
at 3 o'clock.
But we
You're moving
didn't
it back 1 hour
What's that?
from 2 to 3?
We did not meet in January. No, I had an issue that I had to work around, so
Oh,
I
okay.
apologize.
So we're moving the meetings from 2 to 3 going forward?
Yeah.
Okay,
That works for everyone?
sure.
I appreciate that. That allows me to have both of my meetings in one afternoon.
Happy hour's already
15th
started,
in
we're good.
March.
All right, with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 4:20.